My phone was stolen, and I got it back. I work in a small neighborhood market. I've worked there for 3 years. I'm the woman who calls you honey and will cover you if you're short. I've even used tip money to buy a pack of cigarettes or a couple of beers for my favorite regulars if they don't have any money. Needless to say, I am adored. I sat my phone down on the counter after sending a text and went to help a customer. I got busy, so I forgot about it. This is a year-old Android phone. It isn't worth all that much, but I collect screenshots. I have over 5,000 on this phone, and they mean the world to me. Books, phone numbers, and Reddit account are all recoverable, but my beloved screenshots are not. A little later, I went to grab my phone, and it was gone. I looked everywhere, and my son, who was there with me, looked too. I called the boss's daughter and asked if she would come down and look at the cameras, and she said yes. Freaking out, I went to help a customer at the window. He is a well-known neighborhood drug dealer, but I am cool with him because why not? He's a nice enough guy. I've even chatted with him when he rode past my house and I was sitting on my porch. I told him my phone was stolen, and he said, I know exactly who has it. He's trying to sell it for $30. I told him if he could get it back for me, I would buy him a pack of cigarettes every week for a month. He left, and 10 minutes later, the man I thought might have done it came walking in saying, I found this phone sitting outside. Funny, because my son and my boyfriend were sitting outside, and wouldn't they have seen it? The boss's daughter would not confirm who it was. She called her mom and told her so the boss lady is gonna handle it, but I know enough of the shady people in the neighborhood who I have helped out in the past won't let him get away with it. Also, yes, I know it is completely my fault. My boss is always telling me to hide it under the counter and stop trusting people.
My one-sided war with a customer over a bag. To start, this is absolutely petty on my part, and I won't pretend it isn't. I have a particular customer who comes in and gets a couple of smaller items. Usually when it's like this, I don't default to asking if they need a bag. This customer stands there and waits until I ask them if I need a bag, and they shrug and say, sure, dismissively, like they weren't waiting for one and for me to ask. I started recognizing the behavior from the customer, and a couple of times if they came in, I'd just go and grab the bag without asking, and they'd say, no, I don't need it, and leave, even if they waited a minute. So I started getting annoyed about why they wouldn't ask for a bag. If I asked, they'd take it. If I didn't ask but grabbed the bag, they wouldn't. But if I never asked or grabbed a bag, they'd wait. I was convinced they were messing with me. So instead of being a normal person and just continuing to ask them for a bag, today I wanted to stretch the limit. They came up to the counter when no one else was in the store and got a bottle of soda and a pack of gum once they were rung up and paid. I waited. I washed the counter a bit, started stocking behind the counter, and they just waited, on their cell phone looking up occasionally. I started sorting stuff and cleaning up, and they stayed there. I broke after about 3 minutes and asked them if they needed a bag, and they just shrugged and said, sure. My white flag is out, and I'm just gonna keep asking them for a bag.
Woman tries to have me arrested for stopping her from shoplifting. A 19F work at a large craft retail store, and it was almost closing time. I was at a register waiting for stragglers to check out and had my back towards the exit, which is right behind the registers. There was nobody coming up, so I was looking around, and I noticed a woman walking quickly behind me towards the exit. By the time I saw her, she was already turning towards the doors and walking into the foyer which leads to the outside entrance, and I only saw her back and a little of her side, enough that I noticed her arms were crossed over her chest like she was holding something against it. I didn't much of it, just yelled her good night. I guess she was so focused on getting out of the store she didn't notice me standing there, so when I spoke to her she startled really badly and dropped what she was holding. It was a little vase that cost like $10. So immediately I walked towards her out into the foyer. I don't know why she stayed there. She could have just booked it, and I wouldn't have followed her. And I asked her if she was planning to pay for the vase, kind of in a snarky way, but it was late. I was too tired for this bullcrap. She got huffy and said yes, so I picked up the vase to bring it to my register and check her out. I don't know if it set her off or what, But she suddenly got pissed and snatched the vase away from me. She said I paid for this, and then started talking some bull about my dirty paws being all over her property. I already knew what this was going to turn into, so I went to the registers and picked up a phone and paged for my manager. A couple of my coworkers came up to the registers, and she started talking to them about how I had tried to steal her property and accused her of shoplifting and yelled at her. They all knew she was lying already because I'm a very quiet, shy person, and I've never raised my voice, let alone yelled at someone at work. The lady started telling my coworkers to call the cops, and also started saying that I had physically cornered her and that she was afraid for her life. Now this woman was tall and pretty broad, and I am average height thin, so she's a good 5 to 6 inches taller than me and much bigger besides height. There is no way I could have intimidated her that much. My coworkers and I just let her carry on until my manager got there, and it turned out that he had been suspicious of her earlier and had been checking the cameras. When she tried to start her bull crap on him about having me arrested and stuff, he already knew she didn't pay for anything and told her to leave and stop harassing his employees. She told him that she would be calling Cooperate. He said go ahead, and she stormed out after that. The kicker of this whole thing was that she was wearing what seemed like expensive clothes and nice jewelry. And when we watched her leave, it was in a car that looked pretty new expensive, and she was trying to steal and make a big fuss over a little $10 vase, when she obviously has the money to afford many of them. I hate customers like this.
Customer annoyed by music playing in the store. I throw logic at her. I remembered this story when I was working my first retail job. The store was a large corporate store. They would have the store radio tuned into the local radio station. This station would play the same tracks of music every day. Basically, you'd hear the songs, and by midday you'd hear the first song in the morning, and the whole thing would repeat. It drove me up the wall. I hated a lot of the music. It annoyed me as much as hearing the Let It Go song when it was a big thing. While I was working, I had a woman come up to me, very annoyed. She was just bashing the music, saying how it was terrible music, and she should take her shopping somewhere else. I looked at her and said, it is terrible music. I agree, but at least you can leave the store any time you want. I stuck listening to this the whole day. She said nothing. She looked at me in silence for a moment before turning and walking away.
Check out my other great videos.